everybody, welcome to this week's painting video. This week I am painting a series of 3 small portraits on a piece of acrylic paper that I cut into square cards. I decided to do this series because I don't have a lot of experience painting in oil, so I thought this would be a fun challenge to force myself to paint portraits that were smaller in scale, so it was a little less pressure if I messed up, but I still had a lot of fun learning how to use this medium. So I began this process by sketching out what I wanted to paint. I chose an image that had a girl in a hat because there was a lot of really interesting shadows cast on her face, and I thought it would be fun to try and recreate that in oils. So once I had established a base sketch, I used a blue acrylic paint to give myself a base layer, and that made it easier to establish my shadows and highlights when I went in with the oil paint. And then I sort of began an additive process where I tweaked the shadows and the lights back and forth until I found something that I liked. And I found this to be very difficult because I'm more experienced working in acrylic paint, and acrylic paint dries a lot faster. So if I don't like a certain tone, it's very easy to just paint over it. But with oil paint, because it dries so much slower, I found that the colors got muddy very quickly. So in this video, you'll see me tweaking a lot of the same spots over and over again. But it's okay. I mean, the good thing about this was it's all a process, and I feel like I learned a lot doing these little studies. So I'm hoping to do more in the future. And so when I moved on to the hat and the hair, I wanted to have that really strong contrast where there's the really bright light on the right side of her face and her hair. So the hat and the curls in her hair are very bright on that side. And you'll see in the video, I sort of go in and do very extreme darks for the beginning curls, and then I start to go back with my whites and add the highlights. So overall, this first portrait was a lot of fun to do. It was pretty challenging to do a portrait in oil, but I definitely think I learned a lot about how to use this medium in general, and I think it definitely benefited me moving forward into the other 2 paintings. I decided to darken the background because I wanted the portrait to stand out more, and I felt that the background felt very flat. So I went in and I added a darker layer of oil. And then for the final touches, I went in with a small brush and worked on adding smaller hairs and enhancing the curls in the hair more. So for the second painting, I had a really similar process. I began with sketching, and I also did another portrait of a girl, but I wanted to try doing a side profile. Similar to the last one, I added a base color in acrylic paint, and it was just a simple water and acrylic wash. And then on top of that, I went in and began to add my highlights and my shadows. Just like in the last painting, I tried to establish my darkest darks and my lightest lights first, so it was easier to visualize my midtones. So I went in pretty quick with the hair in this painting just because it was so dark, and I found that it made it a little easier to visualize the tones of the face. Painting in a side profile definitely was a struggle for me. It's something that I definitely shy away from when I'm sketching and practicing. So it was a good challenge to think about lights and shadows in the side profile without letting things become too angular or sharp. And just like the last painting as well, I went in with a smaller brush and began to add curls into the hair, or areas where the hair was flowing. And I found that this definitely enhanced the dimensionality of the painting, especially adding in the darker shadows of the hair. And then also I went in and made the background a little darker because I felt that the face was really blending in to the acrylic wash in the background. I think adding a background in these paintings that's very simple just gives it a little more life and a little more of a painterly effect, and I really like that in paintings, so I wanted to practice that in these ones. And for this final painting, I decided I should just step out of my comfort zone and paint something that I don't normally paint. So I decided to paint an old man. And this painting was actually a lot of fun, and surprisingly, it took less time than the other ones. I'm not really sure why, but I think I went into it thinking that I wasn't gonna like it in the end, but it ended up being one of my favorites out of the three. So I did the same, very similar process to the last ones, except in this one I decided to not start with the base color in the back, and I just went straight in for painting the face. And I kind of liked it in this because the man, it's like the picture I was using had so many tones to begin with, so it was pretty easy to establish my darks and lights without needing that background color. I also found with the oil paint that I could add a lot of detail without actually needing to draw on every line. I could feather my brush in a certain way that implied that there were wrinkles in the skin, but I didn't have to draw every single one. And then after I'd finished the face, I decided to add in a darker background just to make the portrait pop more. So I went for like a dark grayish green just because I felt like it enhanced the grays and the greens that were found in the portrait. And then using the same sort of painterly loose style that I used for the other portraits, I sort of implied where his clothes were, where the fold in his shirt was, but I didn't want to go into too much detail because I wanted the detail to be on the face itself and not the background and not the clothes. So overall, I found these three paintings to be a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I really recommend doing these little simple studies, especially when it's something you're not as familiar with, because it's a lot less pressure to paint smaller scale, but you can still learn a lot. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you all next week.